Believe Abdul Muttalib was trained in Yemen by Al-Qaeda to carry out that Christmas Day plot. And with more now on the new heightened security measures at airports around the country because of that failed attack, as well as several other issues making news on Capitol Hill these days, we take things over now to Eric. He's joined by Congressman Steve Scalise. Good morning, gentlemen.
Thank you, Rob. We appreciate that. First of all, Congressman Scalise, you, like everybody else, quite surprised by America still not connecting the dots. And we've seen this happen time and time again, administration through administration, pre and post 9/11.
Yeah, there were so many signs with this Yemen terrorist, and here's this person who nearly was able to carry out a terrorist attack to kill almost 300 Americans, and then you look back and see all of the mistakes that were made. Going back over 6 months ago when his father walked into a U.S. embassy and said, "My son is a terrorist," and here this guy still had a U.S. visa 6 months after his father said he was a terrorist.
And now we're seeing the same thing with the Fort Hood shooting, that agencies, different agencies, the FBI, the CIA, the military, did not share information which should have been done. Then you get to this incident in the Newark airport the other day, 9 days after the terror attempt on the Northwest flight. A TSA guard walks off his post.
Yeah, and when people say, you know, what rules need to be changed to go and stop this from happening again, the real frustration is that the rules don't need to be changed as much as the rules need to be followed, and the rules weren't followed. And I think a lot of our jaws dropped just the day after this terrorist attack when the Secretary of Homeland Security came out and said that the system worked just fine. Well, the system didn't work just fine. A man nearly killed 300 Americans in an attack that all the dots were not connected.
In her defense, and I've heard a number of commentators say this, she did not have all the information yet, and that's what they always say when they.
Well, and that's the problem, is that she didn't have the information, and it seemed like she didn't really understand the severity of the attack. Here's a guy who his father walked into the embassy and said, "My son's a terrorist," and yet he didn't end up on any of the lists that are out there. We've got watch lists. We've got lists that should require somebody getting manual screenings, and he wasn't on them. So somebody didn't do their job, and somebody should be held accountable for that.
Were you glad to hear the president come out so strong and say, yes, we are at war with Al-Qaeda?
I'm glad he finally took that step, because for so long he had almost been trying to sweep that under the rug as if these are isolated incidents. In fact, in his first response to this Yemen terrorist attack, he said that this was an isolated incident. It wasn't an isolated incident. He was trained by Al-Qaeda. They're going to continue to try to find and poke holes in our system, and we have to be correct every single time, because one time they slip through, Americans die.
All right, what can be done? What should the president do? Is he doing enough right now?
Well, he needs
can the Congress do anything?
He needs to hold the people accountable who didn't do their job. Not only the person who walked off his post in New Jersey, but the intelligence officials who didn't do their jobs and allowed this man to board a plane with explosives. That can't be allowed to happen, but you can't just talk tough. You've got to actually hold people accountable, and he hasn't gone to that level yet.
Do you think that the Congress will pass new regulations for the TSA to require more screenings, more pat-downs, things like that, especially on international flights?
Well, they have the ability to do a lot of that today. One of the concerns we're hearing is that there's going to be a move to unionize TSA. That's the last thing we need to be talking about. We need to be talking about how to help them do their jobs better with the tools they already have, and clearly they didn't use the tools they already have. They didn't connect the dots that were all out there, and that's where the systemic breakdowns occurred. I want to see those problems fixed.
All right, now on to health care. The health care measure passed in the Senate, moved back over to the House for negotiations. You feel the Republicans are being kept out of this process?
There's been a deliberate attempt from early off, but especially right now during these talks that are being held in Washington behind closed doors, when the president multiple times made the commitment during the campaign that all of these discussions would be held in the public on C-SPAN, and yet C-SPAN's own director just the other day asked Speaker Pelosi, when are you going to hold these public hearings? And she literally just laughed it off and walked out the room. I mean, that's an insult.
And Republicans, of course, want health care reform. You just don't like what the Democrats are proposing. Do you feel like you're getting any voice at the table at all?
No, and in fact, it's almost like they're pushing us out even further. I mean, we've laid good proposals on the table from the beginning, and I've told you early off some of the ideas that I and others have to actually lower the cost of health care, to allow real portability, to address a real problem I think exists with people with pre-existing conditions being denied. We need to fix those problems, but without the taxes. Their bill has $500 billion in new taxes and $500 billion in cuts to Medicare that only make health care worse in this country.
Quickly, we're out of time, but if it's that important to this country and to this economy, economy and the health of the nation. Why cannot Republicans and Democrats get together on this and find some common ground?
There's a lot of common ground, and that's the frustrating part. And that's why so many Americans are frustrated with the process, because they don't want the government to take it over. They don't want the taxes that are being proposed and all of these mandates. And yet the President and Speaker Pelosi and her liberal lieutenant seem to be ignoring the will of the people. So we're going to continue fighting. I'm going to continue to put ideas on the table and say, let's not do this government takeover. Let's actually reform health care. Their bill is not about reform, and the clock's ticking. We're going back Tuesday, and they're going to try to ram something through quickly again without the public being able to see it. It's going to be my job to stop that from happening.
Congressman Steve Scalise, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Let's
Thanks.
check out the traffic now with John Brown this cold Friday. Hi, John.
Good morning, Eric. Traffic right now from the western half of the city, good steady flow of traffic. Seeing a little bit of a slowdown around the Power Boulevard through Clearview area, steady all the way through the Parish Line with no accidents or breakdowns being reported by state police. At the Huey Long Bridge, good flow of traffic up Highway